Okay, let's take an example, right? A very classic example is a feed, right? A live feed. Probably it's
like Twitter, Instagram feed,
like Twitter, Instagram, or like Facebook. You have some posts coming in.
Yeah, a bunch of views and you like infinite scroll. You need to implement something pointer. How you gonna
exactly? So how do we take this forward? Like, okay, you want to design this, right? So we start from the basic. Like you start from what you see. So what are you gonna see? You have the client component. Right.
Yep.
You need to have, the UI for displaying this. So let's say you have some display component. You probably have some data component. This is just the, this rough sketch of the UI. So you have a data component is going to save the data. Then you have some kind of a controller component.
Okay.
Right. Which is going to make calls to the server.
But basically compute some events like.
Right. Like it's going to make calls to the server, get the data back from the server. Probably need to transform it, maybe clean it, and then put it to the data store on the client. Now you have the server layer, right? So you definitely need to understand that the data is coming from the server, right? So the front engineering does not mean that you have no idea where the data is coming from. It's coming from, you have an API, and the API system is calling from the server. But typically, I feel that now the server part is the black box here.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're saying in your front end system design, you're saying, all right, I'm getting the data from the server, but now you're not really talking about that. You're more focused on this side of what happens once the data comes from the server.
But if the interviewer tried to bring you to this black box to, kind of.
Yeah. So we'll probably come to that, right? But let's first complete what's going to happen on this side, because there's a lot that's going to happen here. There's a lot that you have to think about just on this side first, which is basically the front end, right?
Yeah.
Some of the things you already mentioned, but so all right, so you got the data back, and let's say you have already thought about the structure of displaying stuff. Okay. So what all things that you have to think about? One, absolutely pagination, right? So you cannot fetch in, you just cannot get all of the feed.
Million
right?
of
that's right. So let's say that you've decided there's going to be 20 at a time, right? So you get your initial 20, okay, and then you have to kind of keep your pagination token somewhere in your data store.
If I removed one of the 20 and you want to refresh it, what's going to happen?
Well, that goes in how your pagination token works and stuff like that.
So I mean, do you think it's like is the valid question for a front-end engineer?
So your question was if you remove?
Yeah, I mean, like because how people imagine the pagination. So they kind of like sending like last ID of the item, and then say, hey, give me a 50 next one. But if you removed one item or 10 items or 50 items, you can receive items you already have, and it's going to be a problem.
That's right, and that's why typically you work based on a cursor-based pagination.
Something like that. So it's
right. So which is not really, it was the cursor knows that all right, you already had the initial 20, so you should fetch the next 21.
It's already like touches this black box a bit, kind of, So person in the front end should know how. A little bit, yeah, for sure. But yeah, so you get that list. All right, now you're keeping the token. Now, there's now other things you got to think about. What kind of rendering system you're going to follow? Is it going to be client-side rendered or is it going to be server-side rendered? Now, typically for an application like this, it should be client-side rendered because you want to keep fetching as and when you want more and more feed. But a more smart system would be like, all right, you definitely want to need at least the first 20. So you could probably do a server-side rendering for the initial 20, and the first page comes back super fast because it's like pre-rendered on the server side, right? And then now you continue client side. So I see. So that's the design element there. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like the same strategy Instagram used for celebrities. So they store all celebrities' information in their like short cache. Okay. And also like to have access super fast. So a lot of people want to know what Kim Kardashian doing, So, and for unfamous people, they like just storing them in a long corner, like
it's
just
probably me.
So I think it's the same strategy, and it's really cool to provide better user experience. But it sounds like it's going to be slightly more hassle to, to build this system. Like first page is going to be like server render and then client.
And it doesn't end there, right? This is just a start, right? Yeah. So now you got your first 20, now you're getting the next 20, all right? Now you think about, all right, when do you fetch the next 20?
That's a good question, and I think it should be like in the best user experience decision. It should be related to the speed of scrolling of customer.
That's good.
Or it's like half, at least like when you scroll.
So you definitely want it to be on scroll, right?
Yeah.
So now you're scrolling it. That means you said at certain point you want to fetch it.
Yeah.
Now, what's that point, right?
Yeah.
So you probably don't want to come towards the full end of the list because now, now your user is like, okay, now I have to wait, right? So you probably just before maybe the last 3 items, right? You want to now make the call to fetch the next 20.
Yeah.
But how are you going to know?
Well, I would say the best approach for any front-end task is to experiment. So A/B testing is the only right answer for this specific
no,
type.
I know, but in terms of like implementation, like if you were implementing this, how would you know that now it's the time to fetch it, right?
So it's going to be event, right, from the screen.
And what event is that going to be?
So because like when the view appear on the screen, right, you kind of have a callback or something.
For scrolling the page, right? So when you're scrolling the page, you want to keep calculating how many remaining, and all right, now you just have this much height remaining, so let's go and make the next call because my scroll is going to end, right? And see, now here's the connection now to what we just spoke. If you're doing this check, you're doing these calculations on scroll, and like we just discussed, that scroll is going to keep making these calls so many times. You don't want to do that. Yeah. And this is where you have to use a throttling function, right? So you need the throttling function in this scroll. You don't want to keep checking like every millisecond you scroll, right? So this is the real life connection of like the interview question with this design question.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So you get to the point, you fetch again next 20, you're happily scrolling.
Cool.
Right. So this was, and this, like you rightly said, is infinite scroll. Okay. What else? Now this scroll can really go deep, right? You can have so many posts. So now let's say your list initially was 20, 40, 60, could make like 300, 400. People just keep scrolling.
Yeah, like Twitter, it's infinite.
It's infinite scroll.
Concept of many nowadays applications, infinite scroll, basically to provide this like gesture for customer.
Exactly. But now if you keep all of those in memory, your page is going to start slowing down because now your list is huge.
Cleaning up, yeah.
So how do you clean up these?
How much space you have for a browser?
I don't think the browser really restricts you in terms of. I think it's a fairly large amount of space that you can take. But that's not the point. Like it's large amount of space, but your page will eventually start slowing down. Right, because you have all these objects that a DOM needs to manage.
Videos or stuff.
So much, right? So you need to think about it. So again, this is the design of front end. What you do is you implement something called as a virtual table.
Okay.
All right. So what a virtual list, which basically what it does is that you have the data, right? So you have the model that has your data of all the feed that you've previously got, but you don't. If the user cannot see it, what is the point of inserting it in the page?
Yeah, 100%. So it has like a couple of more like cells or something on the page, right?
Exactly.
And you just like cells remains the same, but you change the data in the cells.
Absolutely.
It's the same like in a mobile. I think from front end.
That's right.
Optimize it. So
right. So you gotta like kind of like okay, you just probably have maybe 15 items that live in the DOM, and you just keep swapping them in and out. So now your pages are pretty smooth.
I bet it's gonna be the problem when if you have a checkbox there.
Oh yeah. I know what
because
you're saying.
now you need to implement view model.
Yeah,
you keep 100%. Because like there is a UI part, and now you need to store the state of the UI because the client changes.
100%. It's a total nightmare to keep track of that. But if you keep things simple, for this question, if you just want to just read and actually that's a good point. We could actually add that later. So let's say we spoke about infinite scroll. We spoke about virtual lists, images. Right, you don't want to prevent
all size of image. You want like smaller size.
You definitely want to optimize your image, but also text is faster, so you don't want to wait for the image to come in order to show your feed.
Okay.
So let them lazy load.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's okay if the data comes first, if the feed text comes first, and the images come later. Right. So lazy
so
loading.
That's why it's blurred on your web page or whatever.
Exactly. The what next? Loading indicators. Right. When you scroll, sometimes all you see is like a skeleton of the feed and just like some animation, right? Instead of, and that's pretty cool. That's what Facebook does, right? You see that. You see the rectangle with the the image and everything. It just gives you the feel that all right, I'm going to see it
soon,
right? I'm going to see it soon. So great loading images, because the worst thing that you can do for your customer as a front engineer is show them a white screen.
Right? Without any indication, without any stuff.
So nice loading indicators. What else?
But what I think I think the most complicated part of front-end engineering, mobile or website, comes when we have something with socket specific. When we tightly connected to the server, and literally server can send any kind of event, in any kind of time. So we don't have this the simplest front end stuff is like when it's like a chess game. So a customer makes move, you make an API call.
Response.
So it's like request response, and you're just TV showing some stuff. But when it's like third party comes into the game. So when it's the server side, and if it's like, for example, we talk about Airbnb at the company, and they have a great, I think they have like something like a server driven UI. So basically the server is sending you view data, and they basically control not only how the UI show itself, but also navigation. Depends on different use cases. So, and this way they can control from the server side a bunch of advertisements, or for different countries they show different things, and it acts differently. I think it's the biggest problem for mobile, especially because you can't update mobile that fast, because you need to wait through the review in App Store. But what kind of front end questions like really in the front end domain they are the most